But we're thinking about doing the mascot challenge as well.
Well, it could also be called the FWH Legal Cup, but instead of a trophy, it's like a golden jockstrap.
Because they support the team?
Right. There. See? Perfect.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Law Light. That's right. I am back. No more Kindle. We are coming to you loud and clear from the high-rise white brick edifice that is two-story in nature. We are in the multi-purpose room, and I don't care what Kindle thinks about calling it the multi-purpose room, because it is a multi-purpose room, PJ.
It is.
And it is time to record some fresh, right out of the box podcast.
Funky fresh.
Let's go with Law Light today.
Yes.
By the way, I don't know if you remembered, but we kind of had an idea that today we would put Kendall under the microscope and ask her some questions. Remember I discussed
that's right. What happened to her?
Well, she knew that we would probably be recording today, and she took today off. I didn't know that interns even got days off, but she took today off. She said she had a lot of things to get ready for going back to school, so she was going to do them all in one day, like doctor's appointments and things like that. I don't know if I don't know if I believe her. I think she was afraid of the toxic waste candy. I don't think she wanted to face the heat in the seat down there.
I agree.
Did not want you and I to come up with questions.
Yeah. Well, something that you just said made me think of this. Let me get your opinion on this, because this is blatant highway robbery, okay?
Blatant highway robbery.
This, to me, shows how the system is broken and we are taking advantage of as people. Okay, so I am on Trintellix, which is anxiety medicine. Okay. Now, it is a brand name, and there is no generic for Trintellix. So if you're on Trintellix, you have no other cheaper options for medicine, for medication. So I go in, and I've got a good RX card, okay?
Right.
And I fill my prescription. This was the last time that I went in. After my insurance, the pills were $180. For 30 pills.
That's after insurance and Good RX?
No, not Good RX yet. So it's $180 after my insurance for 30 pills. Then they put in the Good RX card. It dropped it down to $80.
Okay.
Which I was still like, that's a lot of money.
Right.
For 30 pills. So then the pharmacist starts playing around with it. He's like, well, let me see what we can do here. I said, well, can I do like 15 pills? And he said, yeah, you can do that. We can count pills and you can get lesser. And I said, okay. So he does 15 pills. It goes from $80 down to $10. So he goes, all right, well, let's see what it's going to be for 20 pills. So he punches it in, and it's $20 for 20 pills. It goes from $10 to $20. And he goes, well, let's see what it is for 25 pills. It goes up to $60 for 25 and then $80 for 30. So then I go ahead and take the 20 pills for $20. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I go back in this time, and we're going to do the same thing. Instead of getting the full 20 or full 30, I go to get the 20. Well, now suddenly my pills for 20, over $300. I'm like, well, how much is this? How much is this? We get down to 5 pills, and it's $10 for 5 pills, but it's over $300 for 20. So I say all that to say this. When we go get Logan's medication filled, we were going to the Kroger pharmacy, and it was $99 for his 3 medicines. Then we switched pharmacies to Walmart. It's $30. Same prescription, same medicines. Mm-hmm. This is my question. Why is it not the same price? Why are pharmacies allowed to charge different things for the same medication and the same prescriptions? And on top of that, why do we allow Big Pharma, because that's who it is, none of that makes sense. And I'm terrible at math.
Okay, no.
But none of it makes sense.
You don't have to be good at math to understand
that there's something broken
right,
with
right.
that.
Well, so first of all, let me just say this. This is your attempt at hijacking the podcast because you were afraid of the topic that I was going to talk about that you didn't know anything about. When we sat down here, you said, "Do you know what we're talking about today?" And I said, "Do I know what we're talking about today?" And you're like, and I said, "Do you know what we're talking about today?" And you said, "No."
I don't.
And you never like it when I'm in that position of
Oh, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, well, I can tell it
I'm
does
good with the
because,
unknown.
I mean, literally, we go 3 minutes into the podcast, and you're like, "Well, let me talk to you," and you're opening a can of worms called pharma.
But that's just like I wanted to get your take. I'm not trying to hijack.
And
Look,
you-
I'm a fan of the unknown.
This is your attempt to take over.
I'm a
the
low-key
podcast.
cryptid lover.
Yeah.
So
This is your attempt to have control of the podcast today. Let me tell you a few things. Number one is I think that we have several people who listen to our podcast that work in the pharmaceutical industry. I've talked to them before. Right. I don't know if you remember, but one time I was at the pharmacy and the guy said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast."
Right.
We may be able to get some insight as to this, or it may be a good idea for a guest because I know Carl Lewis from, I don't know if it's Carl, from Nations. Mm-hmm. I bet you if I went and talked real nicely to him, we could get him on the podcast.
That would be awesome. To me, it's kind of the same thing, whereas like you can go to Kroger right now and buy an entire container with like 100 acetaminophen for $6. But if you go to the emergency room, it costs you $80 for one acetaminophen.
Right. Okay. So obviously there's markup with it when there's insurance involved.
Right.
And there's no secret that happens, that the supplier or provider of medical services and goods goes up if they know that there's insurance. They have contracts with insurance to be only and pay a certain amount. So the list price is X because they know they're only going to get Y from the insurance company under their contract. The question for me is these are the same exact pills, and we know that they can afford to sell them $1 a pill or less. If it was $10 for 15 pills, is that what you told me?
Yeah, it was 10 for 15, 20 for
last time you got them filled.
Yeah.
So it's less than $1 a pill. And then it went, but you elected to do the $1 a pill for 2020, right? Okay. So we know they can afford to sell it at that price, at that quantity.
Yeah.
And usually things get cheaper when you buy more, right?
Yeah.
It's one of that's the concept behind Sam's Club is you buy bigger lots.
Yeah.
Right? And you get things cheaper.
Yeah, you can get 700 acetaminophen at Sam's Club. This
is the direct inverse of that. So I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, there's profit, there's insurance, those two things. So what happens is, the terrific triangle of America is to fix healthcare is you have physicians are one corner of that. Pharmaceuticals is one corner of that, and insurance is the other corner. Those three things have to feed each other and have to work in a way that has made it almost impossible to fix. But there's probably an explanation, like at least that we may not agree with the reasoning,
right?
But there is a reason, and probably a pharmacist could tell us that. And so let's get a pharmacist on here.
But still, it's like
you have to go back every 5 days.
Yeah, 5 pills is $10.
That's still $2 a pill.
30 is $300.
That's $10 a pill.
That's stupid.
Yeah, that's $10. Is that right? 30 times 10 is 300.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's stupid.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's no matter, because it goes back to what you just said. They can obviously afford to give you the pills for $1 a pill or less.
Or less.
So then why it is suddenly, it's the same as in times of crisis, gas stations get in trouble if they mark up gas.
It could be that they only are allotted a certain amount of those from the wholesaler or the where they get their pills from.
Right.
To always have a supply of them, well, we'll sell them cheaper if you buy only 5 of them. But if we have to come off of 30 of these bad boys, then we have to order back 30. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So maybe they can get them cheaper if they buy fewer, and so that then that's the ratio. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's still
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said it. I'll talk to Carl and see if he will.
I think that would be interesting.
See if he would be willing to get on the show with us. He's a super nice guy. We'll ask him some questions, and if we don't like his answer, he has to eat toxic waste candy.
That's right. Yeah, the hot seat without Kendall White.
without Kendall White. Well,
The way God intended.
got a few things to talk about here today. First thing I want to talk about, so this episode is going to really make you feel like you're going to be like, oh, because we're going to talk about sports.
Oh, great.
No, it's something.
I can't wait.
But it's something that you've been involved with already.
Putt.
No. We are doing a really cool thing here at the firm.
Oh yeah.
This is cool. So I want to kind of discuss that and also give you a nod, because we hand out nods.
The 4-nod pod.
Yeah, this will be probably a 1-nod pod, but still, when it gets time to give you the nod, I'll give it to you.
Cool.
In college sports, there is this thing called the Capital One Cup. Okay, and Capital One Cup is the Capital One writes out a certain number of thousands of dollars of scholarships to a school who wins the cup. Okay. Now the cup is like a traveling trophy that goes to the college that wins, but they also give out scholarships and stuff like that. Capital One Cup recognizes both a college that wins for female athletics and for male athletics. Okay. And it doesn't just it's a ratio that's been put together to not give any deference to one sport over another. It weighs all the sports evenly, and it's a point system. And let's say your football team in a given year wins 8 games. Well, then you're going to get X number of points, okay?
Okay.
If they win 9 games, then you get Z number of points, okay? If you make it to a bowl game, then you get more points. If you make it to the playoffs, you make more points. And so that at the end of the year, you know how many points your football team has produced for the Capital One Cup. Then you go to basketball, and then you go to track field, cross country, go to soccer. I think swimming is involved, gymnastics. I mean, so in college, they've got more sports, right? And so these schools all get put into this competition, and at the end of the year, Capital One makes a big donation for scholarships to that school who wins across the board. Baseball. Every sport that the college has gets these points toward this Capital One Cup.
Now, are points determined based off of like just different varied aspects of the game?
No, just on outcome.
Okay, I got you.
So yeah,
okay.
It's not like if you hit a home run, you get a point or something like that. It's based upon wins and then levels of playoffs and how high you make it or how far you advance.
Right. Okay.
That's one. There's also, I think, in the Capital One there is, because academic reporting is a public thing. I think that there's an academic aspect of it. I'm not sure, but I think there is, that you're based on your cumulative GPA. If it's for all your athletes, if it's over a certain amount, you get points. Up.
Right.
So anyhow,
but we all know the academic part is rigged.
It's all rigged. Yeah.
Underwater football players, they get straight A's just because they're on the football team. We know how that goes.
So we decided that the third region, which is the region where Owensboro's teams sit, the third region needed to have a similar cup, and the firm sponsored it. And we came up with the FWH Legal Cup. It is going to recognize the school in the third region each academic year that has the best boys program all across boys sports and then girls. So there's 2 cups, there's 2 trophies. We went and had the trophies made. They're a 36-inch trophy with a big cup on it, and it says third region, FWH Legal third region champion, and what this does is if your school wins it, it sits in the office for a year, and you get to brag about having the FWH Legal Cup for across the board.
There you go.
Right? Yeah. Now
is it plastic or metal?
Only I know that. And those who
those
who hoist it will know.
Yeah, that's true.
What's cool is that we didn't stop right there. It's nice to have a trophy, but does that really reward the athletes that do anything? So for this first year, because we kind of developed this thing pretty quick. Like the whole thing came together real quick. The hardest part was coming up with a very equal and fair point system. We had to learn how to do that, but we've done that. We had the accountants help us do that. So here's what's neat is the winning schools are going to get 250 t-shirts to give out to their student athletes, their coaches, managers, tutors, anybody that's in any way related to the athletic teams
Right.
we're having 250 t-shirts. So I'm going to tell you who the winners are. They've been announced, and we will be going to those schools to hand out the cup. We won't have the t-shirts made in time, but they know they're coming to be able to hand out.
Right.
And so the first year winners for the females was the Owensboro Catholic Aces. The girls, their girls program across the board won, and we will be making that presentation to the Owensboro Catholic's athletic director on January the 17th. This Friday night, I'll be going to present the trophy to the boys winner who has been announced, and that is Davis County High School.
Awesome.
So
congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. We see this becoming a bigger deal. We're considering like the next year, perhaps taking the money that we're this year, making 500 T-shirts is not a cheap ordeal anymore. It used to be.
Oh, yeah. Everything's gone up since the pandemic.
We're thinking, okay, next year, is there a way that we can even more directly influence the lives of a student athlete or a family of a student athlete or something? So we don't know if there's ways to maybe just give that money to the athletic foundation for each school so that they can buy safer equipment, new equipment, things like that.
Steroids aren't cheap.
Steroids aren't cheap, and so we need to make sure they're all juiced. That's perfect. Anyhow, that is the first thing I wanted to discuss. It's cool because this is a thing that is only ours.
Yeah.
We are promoting it each year now. Now, the first one, because we were kind of late in coming up with the idea, it's for the 2021-22 class, which was done in May of 2022, okay? Because you have the 21-22.
Right.
The next one will be for 22-23, and we'll actually present it in August at the beginning of the next school year, okay?
Right.
It'll get presented at a football game or something like that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was I've been asked, I've given several interviews about this, and they were like, well, why did you all decide to get behind something like that? My answer was this, is that, as you know, from working for us for a long time, is that we try not to be just good at one thing. We try to be good across the board. So from what our settlement presentations look like to the way we communicate with our clients to the way that we send them text messages with videos in them to let them know what they're expecting before they even get here,
right,
to welcoming them to the firm after they've hired us with a text message with a video in it, to the way their case is handled, to the way that they are communicated with a medical professional all throughout their injury claim, to the videos, like I said, that are produced, to the outcome from courts and things like that. That across the board, that we try to be excellent in everything we do, and because of that, then this type of an award that recognizes it's not like we say, oh great, you all did really good in football this year, let us recognize you. It is a commitment across the board to excellence. And that's why we wanted to get behind it, because it kind of just perfectly symbolizes what we stand for as a law firm. And so we are excited about, helping bring some recognition to the schools that have these good athletic programs. And we look forward to this being an annual thing that we do and making it bigger and better. One of the things, Capital, and you'll get into this, and Capital One also recognizes the mascot of the year in college sports. And so next year, we're thinking about adding a third trophy for the mascot of the year, and then having students, either vote on it or opening it up to a poll, or having a few scouts go out and kind of watch the mascots. We don't know exactly how to grade it to make it an objective thing, but we're thinking about doing the mascot challenge as well.
Well, it could also be called the FWH Legal Cup, but instead of a trophy, it's like a golden jockstrap.
Because they support the team?
Right. There. See? Perfect.
Didn't think I was that quick, did you? So anyhow, that's the news on the FWH Legal Cup, and we're real excited. Now, I want to ask you, you don't pay attention much to sports at all. We've established this, but have you heard about this NFL football player?
Yes, I am well aware of what happened.
Okay,
there.
how did you become aware of that?
This was last night. I had a production meeting at Eric's house, and we were sitting there talking, and it came on the news. He was actually watching the game live when the whole thing went down, so he saw it happened. And
So it was Monday night, though.
yeah, well, whenever it happened. But for me, I found out last night.
It was a freak thing. This guy gets hit. He kind of takes a step or two and then collapses. Damar Hamlin is his name, and his family and everybody is in Cincinnati still. He plays for the Buffalo Bills. Let me tell you something that's really interesting. As you know, we use expert witnesses in our cases all the time, our medical malpractice cases and a lot of our accident reconstruction. We have experts that we have to consult with to understand the medical aspect of cases, right?
Right.
And I have a good relationship with two physicians who are specialists who treat neurotrauma at the University of Cincinnati Hospital. One is the director of the emergency room, and the other is the assistant director of the emergency room there. And both of them have a subspecialty in neurotrauma, brain trauma, and treating strokes and things like that. One of those guys I was supposed to have a telephone call with this morning on one of my cases. And he texted me early this morning. It was like 6:20. We were supposed to talk at 7. And he said, hey, can we push this off? He goes, this place is crazy with all of the NFL officials that are here and the family, and this is an odd situation for us to be in, and all the doctors are kind of been like working around the clock on this guy and on how to handle the publicity, you know?
Right.
And I was like, absolutely, you know, but you know, I never dreamed that a telephone conference I was going to have with one of my doctors in a case would get interrupted by Damar Hamlin's injury.
Yeah.
Not that I care. I hope.
Right.
But
No,
I'm
it's
just saying it's like, it's weird. It's a bizarre.
It's national
That's
news.
right. It's
yeah.
national news. And me and my case, my client are somehow affected by it. You know, you just don't think about how the pieces of the puzzle get put together sometimes.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But anyhow, it seems like what has happened is there's a condition, commotio something. It's your heart has cycles that it goes through, you know, just continually throughout the day. And if your heart is in a certain cycle or at a certain point in the cycle and it gets an abrupt hit, a jar, it can cause the heart to stop.
Right.
And it's happened in athletics, you know, a handful of times. It's a freak accident. I mean, it just, you know, you think of how many times NFL football players have been hit in the chest. I mean, with a helmet.
I'd say a lot.
Right. That's why they have the shoulder pads that come down over the sternum. You know, they come down to protect your heart because, you know, you get hit there a lot, right?
It's necessary roughness.
As opposed to unnecessary roughness. There have been several cases. One was an NHL where a guy took a slap shot from a puck to the chest, and it did the same thing. He skated about 5 or 6 feet and then fell over. It happened to a Major League Baseball umpire who a guy was up to bat, fouled the ball back, hit him in the chest, and he goes, you know. But there, you know, you think about how long we've played football, baseball, and basketball at these elite levels, you know, college or even high school, you know, these elite levels, and there's just a few examples of this happening.
Yeah.
It's the first time in my life that I remember that they canceled the rest of a football game. Like they were like, well, no, we're not playing, which hats off to them for doing that. What was funny was some of the people saying, well, you're going to have to make up the game anyway, so why not play it? You know, and then those people taking all this heat on Twitter. It was kind of funny watching them get put back in their place.
Right.
The reason I wanted to share it was 2 reasons. One is that it's kind of a small world when it impacts us here in Owensboro, Kentucky on a case we're involved in. And 2, just to kind of generally talk about the news of this guy. You know, even people that don't follow football hear about.
So here's what I'm wondering. I know it's always kind of been a topic of conversation, but especially within like the last 6 years or so, they've had a lot of conversations about the safety of the game because of the whole concussion thing and all that.
The brain damage.
Do you think that this is gonna stir all that up again?
I don't know how you could prevent. Now, if they find out, I don't know if it's possible to do testing on this guy subsequent to find out if he was predisposed to an injury like this.
Right.
There are cases of these world-class athletes who just collapse because they have an enlarged heart. And they're like, well, if we would have scanned his heart, we would have known it was a large heart and he was at risk and we would have had to tell him to sit down. I don't know. One thing it may be, if there is some link to it being something that could have been, if they're able to say, hey, we would have been able to catch that he was predisposed to an injury like this,
right,
then they may require some different pre-season physical, you know, like, okay, you have to undergo this kind of a heart scan or this kind of a test, to make sure you don't have a predisposition to this type of cardiac injury.
Yeah. Your heart stopping when you get hit in the chest.
When you get hit in the chest. See, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think it is. I don't think it's something like, well, you just have a soft sternum, and that's, I don't think it's something like that. I think it really is that the heart was just in the right cycle, part of its cycle when it got hit, and the response is stops. It's easy to monitor. It's easy to see. A blow to the head causes a concussion.
Right.
How do we eliminate the blows to the head? Well, we tell people they have to tackle different. You can't lead with your helmet anymore. You can't launch at people's heads anymore. You have to go in with your shoulder instead of your head.
So are there penalties now if you do all that?
Targeting. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's called targeting. College football, if you get caught targeting, it's a penalty, obviously. Plus, you are done for the rest of the game. They throw that player out.
See, I wasn't aware of all that.
Right.
I didn't know.
The other thing that it's really, really, is like a lot of the bigger injuries occur on kickoffs because people are going so fast. You're kicking this ball. This whole team has this 3/4 of the field to build up their steam before they hit somebody.
Right.
And then these guys are coming at you, equally fast, and then you got the guy running the ball who's like the target, right? So one of the things they did is they've made it to where if you fair catch or let the ball go on a kickoff, it used to be that you got the ball at the 20-yard line. They now moved that up to the 25 to give you some incentive just to fair catch it to where you don't have those injuries. It also shortens the field some. They've done some things to try to eliminate the high speed impacts.
Right.
The other big thing that they've done is, there is millions and millions and millions of dollars of research going into the headgear that they're wearing. Different air pockets and the design of the helmet to collapse in itself as opposed to going to the brain, And so there's been all kinds of it. It's interesting to do the research. Still, we have concussions.
Right.
And we have them all the time. And
I don't know how you would avoid that considering what the sport is.
Right. And, the other thing where these concussions get dangerous is if you get a concussion, we've had clients, you've done the videos on them. When they have concussions, 6 and 8, 10, 12 weeks, sometimes even longer, before they're feeling back to normal. Well, it wasn't long ago in pro and college athletics that, you come out little days, they're like, you okay? How many fingers? Yeah, go back in, and they go back in. And then it got to where these guys were playing week in, week out, and there was no real concussion protocol.
Right.
Now there's an independent physician on the sidelines. It's not a team doctor. It's an independent physician that says, no, you're not playing, makes the call. Okay. So that's eliminated a lot of these guys going back in. And then there's this lengthy protocol, concussion protocol, and they have that all the way down into high school athletics. It's a concussion protocol that you have to go through to be able to get cleared to play the next week. And it has eliminated a lot of people bouncing back and playing the next week. There was one case this year where an NFL quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa,
say that 3 times fast,
plays for the Dolphins. He's a quarterback, and he had a questionable head injury or hit to the head in a game, was acting kind of funny, but then came out and played the next week, and the Dolphins said he cleared all the protocol, did everything he was supposed to do. We wouldn't put him in there if he didn't. Well, he gets hit in the game that I'm telling you about, and he goes to the ground and he starts like posturing, doing weird things with his hands and his head, and he's shaking.
Oh, wow.
And he was out then for like 3 weeks, and everybody was like calling BS about whether he had really passed the concussion protocol. And so that did draw a lot of media.
So did he like seizure?
It looked like it. I really don't want to make light of it. His hands drew up like this, and he was just like shaking. So yeah, it was a bad deal. And, there was an investigation opened into it about whether or not he should have come back or not.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of things being done on the head trauma part of it, but I don't know if it's going to translate over to the heart, because I don't think you can really screen for getting hit at the perfect moment while your heart's in a cycle. Maybe you can. I don't know enough about what his genuine, if that's really the, I'm picking up the news. They're being very cryptic about it on, news sources. They're just making statements that he's still in critical condition. he's improving slightly, whatever. But
Well, I think the fix for all of this is inevitably, not necessarily playing, but playing physical football. Once we get to the point where it's like everything could be virtual reality, right? You have the players who all have headsets and they're down on the field and they're playing, but they're playing virtually. And then everyone in the stands is wearing also a visor, so they're seeing the game as it's happening in front of them, just from the fan perspective.
I think we just go to virtual reality, VR.
I have a feeling that's where it's headed, and this is why I say that. Remember when the pandemic hit and like ESPN, there was no actual games, so they would bring players in. They were playing like the PS5 or whatever.
Right.
Apparently that went really well for them. People were at home watching two professional sports players play video games.
That's unbelievable.
And the graphics anymore are so realistic looking. I went to Sports Clips, and this is when everything, was opening back up. But I remember going to, and that's how I found out about it, because I went to Sports Clips, and I was sitting there, and they had a game on. I think it was a basketball game, but in the bottom corner, there were pictures of these two players, like live video, and they were talking to each other. And I was sitting there, and I was watching the game, and I was talking to somebody. At one point, I noticed something didn't look real, but the whole time, but I was watching it for like 5 minutes until at one point I was like, wait a minute. And I looked at the guy and I was like, is that a video game? And they said, oh yeah. ESPN's been, instead of them, because they're broadcasting these two players.
Well, the graphics do. I mean, they take they film these players and then they mimic them.
Yeah.
Their moves and everything. And you're right. When you watch some of that, it looks just like you're watching a game.
And I didn't know any different until there was this one, it's like real games where they do different camera angles. At one point I go, wait a minute, that looks like CGI. And the guy next to me was like, yeah, they're actually playing a video game. And I go, they're broadcasting two players playing a video game? And he goes, oh yeah, it's like everybody's watching these. That's all they're doing now all day, because no actual games are being played.
See, I missed that. Of course, I was just waiting for live sports to come
I think
back.
That's the future. I think that's where we're headed. Because just think, but then the for me, the scary thing is I already feel like sports stars are overpaid.
Oh, if we pay for those kind of...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got these guys that are going out there getting paid millions of dollars.
Bill.
I think so, yeah. See?
Right.
I mean, there's police officers out there making a fraction of what football
and
stars
they have
are
anxiety.
making. Well, they're putting their life on the line every day. Soldiers,
yeah,
doctors, teachers. Well, doctors.
So I knew this would come back to the pharmaceutical thing, but I did that, right?
You brought it full circle.
Yeah. Well, listen, interesting topics. We'll get a pharmacist on here.
Cool.
Damar Hamlin, we hope has a great outcome.
Yeah.
We're happy to do the FWH Legal Cup, and we make those presentations in the next couple of weeks. And our 2023 marketing is in full swing.
Yes,
doing
it
really
is.
Good. So that's the update from the firm. Anything else?
No.
All right.
I don't have anything.
Well, this has been Law Light, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. You can check us out on all platforms of social media. And until next time, we appreciate you and God bless.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith and justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!